Now that's interesting that you talk so much about team and making your people successful and you're happy when your team evolves and grows. Because you shared your MBTI profile with us. And you are an ISTJ, also known sometimes as the inspector. And so the T part means, the thinking part means that you're very rational. So teams and people or the emotional side of things doesn't come necessarily natural for you. So how have you developed that? Because it's important. And the way you talk about teams, it's clear you're good at that now. But how have you developed yourself to be good with teams and with the emotional side of things?
I did it through the analytical starting point. Mm-hmm. My first merger was Millennium, so we made a big merger, 3 banks to 1 bank, and this first 2 years it was like a Shark Tank. Everyone wants to survive, and it was really frustrating. So after this, 2 years after this awful culture, I got a new boss. We got a new boss, and he started a change program. Mm-hmm. And when he started this change program, first of my life, I got an intense training about leadership, about team building, about change management. Mm-hmm. And remember, when I was 33, I was 10 years in business, I was 15 years in business, I was 10 years as a leader, and I had no idea at all what's about teams and what's about change management and what is important. And it took me 2 years to understand what they tried to tell me that is important. So it wasn't natural that I went for it when they told me that this is important. But then I understood how powerful and humanic this is to understand people, that they are different, that they have different needs, and that you can't motivate people. Your job is don't demotivate them, and how you observe it when you demotivate them. So read between the lines. So I trained this analytically. I read a lot of books since then. Okay. So, and it's really powerful to understand this, to understand people. It's really powerful, and that's always for the people, not in 1 second against them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk a bit about the other aspects of your MBTI profile. So you are an I, so you're more introvert than extrovert. What does that mean in your case?
I love one-to-ones more than bigger parties. As you told, I'm from Baden. It's near the French border. We love to drink a glass of wine, so I love these one-to-ones. So I don't prefer pop concerts. I prefer classical ones where I have my own seat, where I have my own space. So I love the one-to-ones.
So you prefer a glass of wine with a small group than the beer fest in Munich?
Absolutely. I was once in Munich. Once. I just stopped it and I went home at 10 o'clock. So, but I think it's better way I go home at 10 o'clock and they make party. Okay. So yeah, and that's yes, I'm an introvert. I know this strength and this weakness. Mm-hmm. So I know my strengths in the one-to-ones and talk between the lines, listen between the lines, and understand them. Yeah, really by heart what their needs are. And then with my analytical skill, that's a T. I put these things together and have an idea what should be done, could be done to empower the team. Yeah.
The ISTJs.
Yeah.
If I researched the strengths and the weaknesses.
Yeah, I know them.
So if you look at the strengths, people with this profile, they're honest, direct, strong-willed, dutiful, responsible, calm, practical, and they like to create order. That's correct for you?
Yeah, I think that fits. Mm-hmm. So, as I told you, I need structure, I see structure, I see where the structure should be changed. And that's also, I think, what the problem is, what I think it's important for a leader that the leader is responsible for the context, for the circumstances. So ISTJ doesn't say that it has to be a strong structure and a strong organization, but yeah, I need an organization, as I also told you about the agile thing. I think you need some cornerstones that you know what to do, and that's my strengths. I also know my weaknesses, so I always seek for people around me who give me insight in my blind spots, and then they give me feedback where I did it well and where I did it wrong. So I try to get this feedback from other MBTI types.
So other are sometimes more creative people or more emotional, strong people and so on. So you try to complement yourself with the right people around you, because your potential weaknesses are you could be stubborn, you could be always playing by the book, sometimes insensitive to more emotional people, and sometimes judgmental. Yeah.
For example, creativity is not my best thing, so in this area, for example, in the strategy, I just ask the questions and I get the creativity out of my team.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Could you give an example where you learned that complementarity is a strong thing in the team?
Yeah, this was the first merger. As you know, I'm in J, and for me it's very important to have an agenda for a meeting. And if you go out, you have tasks and milestones and responsibilities. And one of my colleagues didn't understand it at all, that I want to have these results. For him, it was very important that we had a good discussion.
Yeah.
So, and when I made my MBTI and they give me this, there are different types. It can be good that we have a discussion, only discussion without results. And that's, now I understand this, and I don't love these meetings, but I understand them. So I just sit and let it happen.
Okay. Now, is there in your life a mantra that you live by? A personal mantra that guides you if you have to take tough decisions, for instance? Or
yes, indeed, there is one. If you want the rainbow, you have to deal with the rain. So I love to learn, I love challenges, I love transformation, so I love to step out of the comfort zone. Often it's fun, but sometimes it's really hard to step out of the comfort zone, and then it rains. But I understand as well in the nature that it has to rain. So, and if it rains, that's my analytical side. I just try to reflect. What could I have done differently? What could I learn out of that? And when I have this idea, then I discuss this idea with others. Then I make a plan, and then I change for the future.
Okay. Anke, you have a daughter, son-in-law, 4 grandchildren. Congratulations. What are the values that you want to pass on to them?
Integrity and reliability. You may know the book of Stephen Covey's Speed of Trust. He states clearly that if you mistrust, you have to pay taxes, and if you trust, you get dividends.
Okay.
So, for example, you trust when you drink a cup of coffee that it isn't poisoned. And if you don't trust, you have to be tested. It has to be tested. And then you have to trust the tester. So, and we trust in coffee. And that's the same in business. If you mistrust, you have to have so many checkpoints, and you have to, always around your people, and the culture will suffer. So, and if you trust your people, then you will give you dividends. One additional comment, reasonable trust. So you don't trust your GP that is able to physically replace your heart. So reasonable trust. And that's the same for a project lead, for example. So a junior project lead gets smaller projects that he has time to learn and go in his comfort zone and don't go directly in his panic zone. So reasonable trust, give them the opportunity to learn and help them if they need your help.
Okay. In your career or in both in your professional life and your personal life, who are the people that you look up to and why?
I had so many people in my life who helped me, and you need so many people in your life. But maybe just mention three. My first mentor was Albert Heimpe, and then this leader helped me through the merger. It was Klaus Rausch with his change management, or Peter Leukert. Let me start with Albert Heimpe. It was very funny, and it was 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. I tend to be abrasive, and once again, I just want to solve the problem. And he very gently took me at the collar of my blazer and pulled me back and said, "Anke, look for the door. You don't have to go through the wall." And he was really, really nice to me. And I always remember when I start again to be too pushy, look for the door. So the other thing was this merger, this change program, this new leader who gave me the first insight in change management and leadership, and that was amazing. Or Peter Leukert, he was the CIO, now he's the CEO of Telecom. He was the CEO of Commerzbank when we made the merger. How intense and energetic he goes for this merger.
And what did you learn from him?
To have fun going, just go for it. And trust your people. You always trusted us.
Okay. So now we come to the million-dollar question. What was the best thing that ever happened in your life?
The best thing in business, whatever happened to my life, was my PhD. Mm-hmm. I made my PhD 15 years, 20 years after I finished my bachelor.
And it was a PhD in information management.
It was a PhD in information management. And I worked for 15, 20 years. And I thought, okay, something should be changed in my life. I want to learn a little bit more. And I started working directly after high school. Mm-hmm. And I had no students' life. And I really thought, I make my PhD and have some students' life. That didn't work out. So I had no student life. But I love to learn. I love to get all this information and put this information together. I really improved my analytical skill. I love to talk to my colleagues and put all this information together. And then it was so great to deliver after 2 years my book, and that was fantastic.
I understand that for your PhD, you have interviewed 40 CIOs.
Yeah.
What have you learned in there? What was your conclusions, and what was the starting idea of the research, and what was the end conclusions?
The starting idea of the research was that CIOs are different depending on their first education, what they learned first. So if it's engineers or economics or consultants, that was the idea, because I had 3 bosses with these different skills, and they reacted totally differently. But that wasn't the answer. After this discussion with 40 people, 40 CIOs, the difference was how old they are, how mature they are, and the context of the companies. So, and then I learned 2 things out of that. So you have to work on the context. You really have to work on the context that your people or a CIO is able to deliver the thing the company needs. And the second thing is to listen carefully. That was a main task in my PhD, to listen carefully and get out of this 1,000 pages of transcript interviews to get the information out of that. Yeah. That was the second thing I learned.
And your conclusions of the PhD was the best CIOs, or the methods that work best for a CIO really depend on, or the methods that they use. It's really dependent on how experienced they are, how long that the CIO themselves is in the role, and then the context, the industry, and the maturity of the organizations. So you would say a younger, less experienced CIO in a banking industry will use completely different methods than a more mature one in a logistics industry.
Yeah, I don't think complete different methods, but they use it differently. So, and I would say the same as I experience now. I'm mature now. I have 30 years of experiences. I react in a different way as I did 10 or 20 years ago, and that's the same what I have seen in this interviews. So that's the one thing, that you change your behavior, that different things getting more important. And the other thing is the context. You can have a wonderful CIO who knows exactly what to do. He's able to form teams. If he doesn't have the context, he has no chance, or he can do an awful lot more if he gets the context where he really can go for it. And that's also the thing I learned, what I try to give to my people, that's not only for CIOs, that they need a context where they can survive, where they can succeed. So my job is to give them the best context I can do.
So would that also mean that your experience is 30 years in banks, it would be very difficult for you to succeed in, let's say, a production environment or logistics environment?
I would say logistics can work because it's a little like it's economics. This warehouse, I always say pharmacy wouldn't work for me because I don't know pharmacy, but I really think that's totally different. So I think as a leader you have to have the knowledge to ask the right questions. I don't think that I can do it in every context. Okay,
so it needs to be close enough to your current comfort zone, and
it doesn't have to be the same, but it's close to my experience.
Okay, that makes sense. Good. Now, what was the worst thing that ever happened in your life, and how did you deal with it?
So I don't think that I really deal with it. The worst thing, and it happens again and again, is the first thing was when I realized that some leaders just want to deliver according to demand and don't think that they're responsible for the people and don't think they're responsible for the company. They only think they're responsible for their department and their silo. And I always try to give my people a wider responsibility, that they are responsible for the company, that they are allowed to ask the right questions, not only for their departments, but also the overall questions for the company. And it's pretty easy to do this in your department. So people love to ask questions, they love to be involved, and they change it. It takes time, half a year, so you change your department. But then it becomes difficult, because then your department changes, and the change of your department changes the company. And so many people doesn't like this change. They really reject this change and stop this change. And that's very difficult for me all the time, because I push my people to ask the right questions, they learn to ask the right questions, and when they sometimes go out of the department, they said, go back. They get setbacks. And that's my biggest problem. So what can I do to this? What can I do to help them through the valley of tears? What can I do against this resistance and this fear? So the easiest way would be to adopt. So, okay, I just think about my silo and then everything's fine. I would think so, then this, for me, everything would be fine. But that isn't the best way for the company and isn't the best way for the people. So how do I deal with it? I just be resilient. I try it again in different ways. Because I'm so convinced that it's so important that you trust your people, you give them responsibilities, and that they're allowed to ask the right questions.
Does it have to do with company politics? Is that a difficult thing? And I mean, in big organization, big banks, politics, is that holding companies back?
It's a power game. Absolutely, it's a power game, and you always have this power game. If you automate, normally you need more IT guys and less manufacturers.
Yeah.
So, and in banks, you have more leaders who are responsible for the manufacturers.
Yeah.
So they don't like this change. I understand that they don't like this change, but they don't accept. That's for me a totally different thing to understand and to accept, but don't accept it, because I really think that's a big, big problem for the banks if they don't have this change done.
But that's probably also a bit the role of a CIO in a bank, is to make them aware of the changes that are coming, and that the technology is completely transforming business as it was.
Yeah.
And so it's the role of the CIO to use the alarm bell and say, we need to make the changes, otherwise we will not survive as a company.
Therefore, I don't like this digital transformation phrase, because then so many people think that's IT related, that CIO has to do, the CDO has to do. I love this industrialization. You have to start with the business model. You have to start with standardization, modularization, and then automate, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So, but that's too close to there. Yeah, that's the difficulty of a CIO in a bank. I think so, yes.
Okay. What is it that you fear most, and what is it that you love most?
So I have a wonderful family, as you already mentioned, colleagues and friends. They are my solid ground. So, okay, maybe what I fear is to lose them. That's my biggest fear, to lose them. So what I really love to do is to have big challenges, to have a wonderful team, and to go for this challenge. And I love to have a sparring. I love to have discussing. I love to reckon your brains for the best argument. And then when we did this, the team says, "Okay, that's the idea. We go for it."
Okay, very cool. Now we're coming to the end of this conversation. These videos are being watched by future digital leaders, future CIOs. What would your advice be? If you look back and where you were 15 years ago and where you are now, what do you think future digital leaders need to know and to do?
I think digital know-how is mandatory. So you have to know the technology. You have to know the technology of today and for the future. I also think it's mandatory to understand the business. So if you go in this business, you have to understand this business. So logistics or banking or pharmacy. So that's mandatory. But I think essential is the leadership skills, the leadership and moderation skills, that you are able to put this knowledge together and make it happen.
Yeah.
And make it happen, it's only, you need a team for, and you need a team that is able to work together and to love to succeed.
Okay. And with that, Anke, thank you so much for your time and for coming over. And I really enjoyed this conversation, and all the best to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.